what you're seeing in terms of market conditions and the fundamentals here?
Well, in all seriousness, I think this right now is probably about the best time I've seen since I've been in real estate in 12 years, but I also go back over the statistics for the past few decades. This is the most raging buyer's market I've ever seen. Isn't it
a bit predictable that you'd say that?
Of course. It certainly is. But the reality is that I am also the keeper of the statistics, and the reality is that 2008 was the disaster year at least for the sellers. Good year for buyers, but for the sellers, a pretty tough year. In terms of the numbers of sales, it hit an all-time low. Normally, let's say with single-family homes, there are about 400 or 500 sold in a given year, even in a normal year, whatever normal is these days. But and in 2008, that there were about, I think, 227 homes sold.
My goodness.
So that's certainly bottom in terms of we'd have to go back a few decades to see that few homes sold. So we hit a bottom in terms of numbers of sales in 2008. We hit the bottom about a year ago, in January 2009, in terms of the sales price, which was at that point $369,000 was the median selling price of a home. Then,
and that had come down hugely from its peak, had it not?
Good Lord, yeah! Back in the spring of 2006, the height of the raging bull market, that figure had hit 660,000. So
that's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. What's happened now, though, is that we hit the bottom of the market in terms of the price January 2009, and that price has not really gone up. It went up a little bit into the 400s and then floated back down. Right now, as of February 2010, that figure is about 405,000 for the median selling price of the home. So it's still it stayed in that around the low 400s for the past year. The reason that's actually odd, though. We've sort of suspended the law of supply and demand. Sales have been up dramatically. Sales in 2009 went up 52% over 2008 for single-family homes. So for last year, there were 300.
Yeah, that's really bucking the trend for the national average, isn't it? I mean,
it is.
So Sedona seems to be much healthier.
Well, Sedona's on the edge of the curve. We're seeing that on a national level. Things are starting to come back nationally, but Sedona is usually on the leading edge of the curve. Sedona's market is much different than other markets in the country in that no one moves here for a job. So it's the fact that there's high unemployment. It doesn't affect us because basically people come here. They're either coming to retire or to have a vacation home or a second home. It's certainly how good things are back and where they're coming from does make a difference, certainly. Sure. But in terms of people actually moving for jobs, there's not a direct correlation there. So I do think Sedona is going to be is in fact leading the curve in the market recovery. So we're seeing buyers coming in numbers we haven't seen since back in about 2007. We're actually ahead of not only 2008 in terms of the numbers of sales. We're ahead of 2007. So we're about 10% lower than 2006. So from that perspective, we've got a pretty strong market.
So why are prices staying so low?
Well, good question. Because the other half of that picture of the supply and demand is supply, and oddly enough, the supply is down. The inventory of homes is off about 26% from 2008. I think a lot of that are people just holding things back. Well, for one thing, things have been selling, but also people are holding some homes back. So you've got significantly increased demand and decreased supply. You would think the prices would have gone up. The reason they haven't, in my opinion, is that there's sort of a wet blanket effect from a fairly large number of foreclosures. Mm-hmm. Foreclosures and short sales. Short sales are sort of pre-foreclosures. 31% of the sales in 2009 were foreclosures. Wow. And those foreclosure prices those properties sell significantly below what the market would seem to indicate would should be the reasonable price. But it is part of the market, so if I have a home I'm trying to sell that's not in foreclosure, I've got to compete with those foreclosures, so I have to keep my price down as well.
Which is great for the buyer.
Absolutely great for the buyer. The sellers can take heart because things are actually selling, but they're selling for a heck of a lot less than they once were. At all levels, we're seeing a lot of the foreclosures at let's say in the $200,000 range, but it's also affected the luxury range, and the luxury market is way off its numbers from previous years. At least that's what it looks like when you look at the picture. You look at the statistics. If you consider a luxury home $1 million home or above, when I finally sort of dug deeply into what was going on and looked at each sale individually to see how I would categorize that, I discovered that if you included as a luxury home what had been listed for over $1 million but sold for less than that, we're actually on a pace that's even stronger than the bull market. It's just that it's not that $1 million homes are not selling; it's that they're not selling for $1 million anymore.
So it sounds like this is a great time to look at your dream home in Sedona if you have the resources to do that. Absolutely,
at all levels, from the lower end of the market to the luxury end. What I'm happy about, and what I try to tell sellers is to take heart, and people in general, we're getting back to a much more healthy market in the sense that one of the concerns I had is when we got into this raging market back in 2004, 2005, we lost buyers. We kept pricing people out of the market. Now those people who couldn't afford Sedona back in 2005 can afford Sedona now, and that's also what's happening. We're seeing investors, but we're also seeing probably the bulk of people coming are people who just have always had this dream to live in Sedona, and now they can afford it, whereas they couldn't. As long as they can get a loan these days, that's still the tough part, and I think that's what's going to be holding the market back a little bit is we have to get the banks to finally start giving back some of that money that they got
from
last
us.
year. Yes, from us. Yeah. So we are seeing a lot of cash buyers, but I am seeing people being able to get loans. It's just they have to put a lot more down than they used to. But I am starting to see the banks actually lending money a little bit these days, so that's encouraging.